Batman. We all know who Batman is. From the campiness of the 1960s to the dark nights of the 2000s, Batman has been through it all. Of course, Batman has had many shows, comics, toys, ice creams, and of course movies throughout his time. But there is one movie that everyone remembers, the 1989 Batman movie. Today we're going to be looking back at this movie and talking about why it's so great. Me personally, I really like the movie. A lot of people do. But it's kind of overshadowed by more recent Batman movies. Specifically The Dark Knight, the new Robert Pattinson's The Batman. Hell, a lot of them. Even animated shows and movies are top to this one. But why is this one great and still is great? Well, let's talk about it. It all started in the late 70s to early 80s. After the colossal success of Richard Donner's Superman in 1978, people can now see that superhero movies can be more than just cheap entertainment from what people viewed them at the time. With Superman doing good, DC Comics wanted to get their other characters on the big screen. And after Superman, who else did they choose but their second most popular superhero, Batman? They decided to take Batman back to its roots, like in the old days of the Detective Comics, while also taking inspiration from Frank Miller's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. All they needed now was a director. And who did they find? Well, no other than Tim Burton. Burton took the job due to him having no work doing at Disney, only working on short films.
They're just kind of languishing there at Disney with not really much to do, and
But before Burton could make Batman, he needed to show what kind of films that he was willing to make. So, after the success of Tim Burton's Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985, Burton was given the green light. After going through production hell, the film plot was finalized. The film was to be focused on Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, in his first year. Already, people were scared of him and want nothing to do with him. But one day, during a break-in at the Axis chemical plant, Batman accidentally dropped mob boss Jack Napier in a vat of chemicals, turning him into the terrifying Joker. Now crazier than ever, he plots to poison all of Gotham City, as well as obtain the love of news writer Vicky Vale. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne remembers the Joker was the one who shot his parents when he was just a kid. And when the Joker kidnapped Vicky Vale and took her to the top of the church, Batman and the Joker had their final showdown, which ended in Batman killing the Joker. Now that Gotham was free of the mad clown, they made a bat symbol to call on the Dark Knight whenever trouble rises. Yeah, it's a pretty decent plot, and it works for the movie, and for what they were going for at the time. Let's talk about the characters and their so-called actors. First up, we have Batman, played by Michael Keaton.
I'm Batman.
Who does a brilliant job at portraying the Dark Knight. So much so that people only see him as their Batman, despite the fact that we have all these other people who played the Dark Knight on the big screen. I heard some people say that they didn't do a good enough job as Keaton. I don't think that's the case. Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, Adam West are all great Batmen. But people don't see them as great as Keaton. Me personally, Robert Pattinson is my personal favourite pick for the live-action Batman. Okay, anyway, back to the script. Then we have Vicky Vale, played by Kim Bashner, who again does a good job, but she's kind of forgotten in this movie. She's just sort of there in this for Joker and Batman to interact with. She's the main girl character, but she doesn't do anything. I'm kind of struggling to find words to describe her. I'm sorry, I'm kind of improvising this little bit. It's not in the script, but, just adding to this little segment of the script because there's not much there. Let's move on. Then we have the Joker, played by the legendary Jack Nicholson.
You can call me Joker.
He absolutely steals the show. He's the best part of this movie. Some people like him. Well, some people really like him, I should say. And very few people dislike him. Nicholson was so fondly remembered that there was some backlash when Heath Ledger took on the role. Like, no one wanted anyone else to play this character after Nicholson. I mean, I wouldn't blame them. I mean, it's a good performance, especially at the time. I mean, look at what we have now. I really wish this kind of Joker was back. I mean, I'm kind of sick of the painted face at this point. We also have Alfred, played by the late Michael Gould, who was one of those few characters who stuck around for the entire trilogy, and does a nice job at portraying Bruce Wayne's sarcastic butler. Other characters include Commissioner Gordon, Harvey Dent, Bob, and a few others that are just in this movie. But the real focus is on Batman and Joker, and I guess Vicky Vale, who all do a great job at the story they are in. They are still remembered to this day, and for good reason. Okay, real quick before I start talking again, I just want to apologize for the echo you hear in the background. I've transferred to a bigger room because I'm in a hotel right now and my room is being cleaned, so I'm filming this section here, so I apologize again for the echo. But anyways, let's talk about the sets for this movie. The sets are absolutely brilliant. They have a lot of detail pulled straight out of the comics. Like, the Axis chemical plant feels, well, like it came out of a comic. I'm sure I can find an illustration of it, but it feels that way. The scene of Joker pulling his hand out of the chemicals feels straight out of a comic book. The actual Gotham City itself feels like Gotham from the comics. And the whole atmosphere of the world just feels like a comic book. I really wish we get films that resemble the source material nowadays, because now it's all about realism, especially with Batman. And hell, even Marvel have been taking some realistic approaches. You know, when it comes to comic book movies, I want ones that feel real, but also feel like from the source material. Like these movies, they feel like they're from the comic books, but also are believable in real life. Well, at least for the Burton movies, but we'll talk about the Schumacher movies later on. Okay, now we're back to normal. Let's talk about how the movie changed Batman again. Yes, again. This isn't the first time this has happened. It's happened before, but last time it messed Batman up. Let me tell you. So at the start of the old Detective comic days, Batman was like, well, how he is now. Pretty dark and brooding. Then came along the 1966 Batman show, and while the show does have its fans, I personally enjoy it, it did leave a stain on Batman's reputation. People now viewed The Dark Knight as, well, just a campy, silly superhero. And he was portrayed like that in comics and shows just for the last 20 years. Then when Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns came out and proved that Batman was dark again in the comics, this movie changed everything in media. Well, every media. Like, comic books are media, I guess, but this film also inspired many shows, movies, and comic books following it, most notably Batman the Animated Series, the Dark Knight trilogy, and even the recent Batman '89 comic series that's meant to follow up where the Burton movies left off. Now, my personal ratings for the film is a 7.5 out of 10. It's brilliant, but there are other Batman films that are just a little bit better. But just because other films are better than this one, doesn't mean this one's good. I mean, it's in my top 10, definitely. And it's a lot of people's number ones. I can see why so many people see this as their favorite Batman movie, and one of the definitive takes on the Batman series.